This YouTube is about upgrading my 40 metre dipole to include 20 metres as well. Not quite sure how to do it yet, whether to do a fan dipole, or I've seen an article with like a parasitic element running parallel to it, and I'm thinking of using these spacers. These are, I think they're from the dollar store, 5 for $1, for marking plants in the ground, but they're ideal if you think about the current antenna wire going through, perhaps cable tied through that way. It will keep that vertical, and then we suspend a lower wire underneath. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to achieve that as yet, and I'm going to model it on ESNEC also. So these little rods, they're just over 11 inches long, measured on a ruler. And what's that? 290mm as well. So one way or another, the next step for me is to model it on ESNEC and see what the next logical step would be. So our starting point is a 40 metre antenna outside that is resonant at 7.124 megahertz, which we saw on the analyzer just now, and the actual legs for each side are 9.92 metres. So each leg is 9.92 metres. So that's kind of a reference point. In ESNEC here, this is the program we're going to use to model potential antennas. We're going to look at what it currently is. We're going to look at having a dipole, a 40 metre dipole with a wire running parallel to it as a parasitic element. I'm not sure that's necessarily the right word, but that's what we're going to do. I saw an article in a magazine which suggested if you just run a parallel wire half wave an inch or two underneath, the antenna would also be resonant on that band, which is 20 metres in our test here. Also, I'm just going to model a conventional fan dipole, which is where you just run another set of elements out from the feed point in parallel to the existing elements. So here we go. Let's first of all look at just a 40 metre dipole. There we go. Just to save the many minutes, I've actually already pre-saved these. So that's what a 40 metre dipole looks like. In fact, that's from the sky looking down. In my instance, the Y is north and X is east. My antenna actually runs north-south, so the only thing this will affect is a far field plot looking like this. Let me just, my antenna will look like that, east and west. So not much to it because it's a dipole anyway. So let's take a quick look. You can see the antenna up here with the waveform superimposed in pink on it. The wires, there we go. I've actually put 10.05 in this modelling software instead of 9.92 to get that same resonant frequency. The reason I do that is because I actually want to calculate what we should be putting for the 20 metres later. Doesn't make much difference because I'm going to cut oversize and then trim down anyway. So there's the antenna, there's the wires. Let's take a look at the SWR. So we can sweep from 6.9 to 7.4 in smallish increments of 10 kilohertz. There's what it looks like. The way I reference these is I like to know the bandwidth at 2 to 1, so that's where this green dot crosses the level 2 SWR there, where it's resonant down here, and where it crosses to up here. That's to me the usable part of it without an ATU. So in this instance, it's 6.8 megahertz through to 7.3 megahertz roughly. What is that? And so 7.3 minus 6.8, that's quite wide. That's a half a meg bandwidth there. Right, so that's our 40 metre dipole. Next we're going to run a parasitic wire next to it. So let's open that one up. 40, 20, where are we? This one here, 40 metre dipole with 20 metre parasitic. And I've actually changed this to be north and south, the same as my property. So there it is. You can't really see it very clearly. You need to zoom in with this software and then bring the height down. Zoom a bit more. You can see basically there's two wires running parallel there, and the reason we can't see it very clearly is because they're only 1 centimetre apart. So this wire number 2 is not connected in any way to wire number 1, the original 40 metre dipole, and not at the feed point in the centre. It's just purely parasitic. It just runs parallel, but it doesn't run parallel in quarter waves. It's a half wave long right the way through. So let's check the SWR of that out. 6 to 15 megs. Yeah, this is just very broad. So the 40 metre dipole, the SWR was right down to 1 to 1 pretty much. You see this, the parasitic does give you 2 dips in the right place. So let's remember, this is approximate and we need trimming. This is moved up. It's moved your 7.1 megs up to 7.2, but that's still usable. And the top end, let's have a look, 14 megs roughly. Remember, I'm going to trim it up and down slightly. So that's what that looks like. Now if we actually use the next model, I'm going to connect the 20 metre elements into the feed point in the centre, and you'll notice that this area here of SWR will be lower. So this is still perfectly usable. It's like 1.6, but for the sake of connecting to the centre to improve that, let's check. So this is 1.6 roughly on both sides. Let's check what a fan dipole would be, a true fan dipole. This one. So there you can see I've got a lot more wires. The reason I've done that is because I've actually broken down the centre feed point. Let's see if we can zoom it in. There we go. We zoom it in even more. Right, so wire number 2, if we look at number 2 here, is just a very, very small 10 centimetre piece, just so that I can put a dipole, like a feed point, in the centre of that wire. And then these other wires we can connect to it as shown. So this top element is the 40 metre one, which is just 10 metres in this model. And the lower one is your 20 metre one, which is 4.65 metres plus a half a metre there. So 4.65 plus 0.514, that's 5.164 metres in total length there. So what I would do is I would bring this out, the very first piece I would drop down, and I would have a spreader vertically there, and then spreaders spaced along the length there. So that's what the antenna looks like up in the sky. Let's, on this side here, all I've done is one dipole, one leg of the dipole through the centre there's the other leg of the dipole, and then here I've done a lower leg and then the little short piece into the centre, and then the short piece in the centre out to the lower leg, and then the lower leg the other side. So that's all we've done. Let's check the SWR. Okay. This time what I think we will see is a lower SWR. Remember, they were 1.6 at the notches at each end. Okay, so this notch here is down to pretty much 1 to 1, where it's resonant on the 40 metre, and this notch here 1.6. So for the sake of connecting both of those together in the feed point, we've got pretty much the same SWR on the 40 metre end, which is the one down here, and the same as we would have had with the parasitic, sitting at 1.6 up here. So that's a good, shall we say, compromise, trade-off, whatever you want to put it. So I'm interested in the 2 to 1 bandwidth at each end, right? So here, I can't show it very well here, but basically where this 2 line crosses through to that 2 line there is the bandwidth of that antenna, and it's resonant, or truly resonant, at the bottom point here. So we can actually we can zoom in on this, say 6.9 to 7.3. Let's do that again. So 6, just leave it at 6.8, 7.3, and we'll reduce the increments so we get a much better curve. 0.01. Here she goes. So we're interested in the bandwidth at 7 megahertz or 40 meters. So again, this is how I measure my antennas. We go for the low frequency, the resonant frequency, and the high frequency at the 2 to 1 point. So low at 2 to 1, high at 2 to 1 is the bandwidth, and this is the actual resonant frequency. So let's check where that touches 2 to 1. 2 point, and we're looking in this area down here as we step along. Okay, so we're looking for, I'll just say there, 6.97 to 7.26 roughly. 7.26 minus 6.97, 290k, so 0.3 of a megahertz, and our figure was different. Okay, so on the parasitic, I measured that to be 230 kilohertz, so 0.23 megahertz, and on the resonant fan dipole, it's about 300. So we gain 70 kilohertz there by having this method instead of the parasitic. So the same thing we can do with the 14 meg part. On the parasitic we get 260 kilohertz, and on the fan dipole 330. So the fan dipole method wins hands down in terms of an expanded range that it's usable. So the next thing is really we need to go away and cut this antenna, but before we do, let's just have a look at the far field plots. So this currently is 14.2 megahertz, okay, and we're looking, there's north-south, looking from a helicopter down, north-south it's got good coverage east and west, and it also has reasonable coverage north and south. So it's not quite omnidirectional, but it's not far off. Remember, that's at 14 megahertz. So let's change this frequency to 7.1 megahertz and take another look. Pretty much the same pattern. If anything, it's slightly more east-west than north-south, but it's pretty much omni. We could actually check into that. So that's as we're looking from a garden fence sideways at it, north-south, and we could take an elevation slice, but it's easier to look in this 2D plot here. So if we click on an area there and we go around, we can see the green dots here and here tracking. So it's pretty good. It's not a cloud burner in its entirety, and it's not really a DX, but it is a good omni aerial that's shall we say, a one-size-fits-all in this instance. And for sure it will enable me to get 40 metres and 20 metres on the same antenna. So yeah, I'm going to go away and cut some wires for this. In this ESNEC modelling, it suggests that the wires are 5.15 metres. I know that that's slightly different from what I've actually got in the sky on ESNEC compared to what I've actually got in the sky at the moment. So I'm going to say that I want to cut this 5 metres and 21 centimetres, so 5.21 each leg, and then trim back. But because I've done this before and the wires haven't been long enough, what I'm actually going to do is cut for 5.3 metres, stick the thing up there, measure it again using the analyzer to see what it actually is resonant on, and then calculate how much I need to trim off. I find that a much safer method. So off we go to the cutting of the antenna next. Okay, so every one of my videos starts okay. So in the ESNEC model, we used a gap of 25, or a space of 25 centimetres between the main 40 metre wires going across, and where the 20 metre drop down and across was 25 centimetres. So I'm just going to mock up on one of these what that would look like. So I'm expecting in the top part here to have a couple of holes, and I'm going to loop a cable tie around what's already up there. So the element wire will run through and be secured, or this will be secured to it using cable ties. And then the same down here, but down here I'm thinking I probably need 2 holes in quite close proximity to secure the 20 metre wire. And maybe it might even need a blob of hot melt or something. Anyway, so what we're going to do is perhaps 5 millimeters from the top. Let's think about this. We want more than that. We probably want, it's going to wrap around some cord that's up there, which is a few mil. I'm going to say 7 millimeters, and this one here is the template, if you like. I was going to say prototype. So 7 millimeters down, and we're just going to draw a quick line across at that 7 millimeter mark at each end. And then decide how far in from each end to drill the hole. And I would suggest probably the same or more. Maybe 5 mil is easy to do because you can see it. 5, yeah, 7 mil again. This time I'm just offering up to 7 mil line, and you can draw straight across the end. I'll do the same with this one. 7 mil, draw the line, and at this stage you've got a couple of crosses on there. Hopefully they come out on the camera. There's a cross either end, 7mm in, and then we want to go 25 down from that mark. So again, it's probably only really got to be approximate. There's my 25 mark, and what do I want down there? Probably only a couple of mil, but the plastic is quite thin down there, so I'm wondering whether I should just clip the end off. Yeah, I'm going to clip the end off. It's going to be easier than drilling 2 holes. So a pair of tin snips should do the job. And I don't really care about measuring this because I'm going to just use this one as a template. So here we go. A few mil from the end, off she goes. So now we've chopped that last little piece off there, and we have a mark. So the next step is just to drill through those holes. That's going to be quite a small hole. What I'm going to do is grab the cable ties. Just give me a second. Incidentally, this is all materials I can just source during the COVID kind of ban on going out and business, etc. So these are just dollar store cable ties, $1.50 for 120. I don't expect them to be high quality, and I'm not going to stick the antenna up for 15 years. So we'll just see. But in there's a multi-pack of the kind of small cable ties that are roughly 4 inches long, and the larger cable ties which are 7.5 inches long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the large cable ties at the top here, just loop them over, pull them up tight, and the small cable ties at the bottom, just around the end there, and we'll see what's what. We'll see how it goes. Before I do all of them, I mean, I've got 15 that I can use. I'm probably only going to use 10, but I will do a sample of one and give it a test before I commit to the whole lot, just in case my theory's out the window. Okay, so I've just been looking at this plant label holder thing, these larger cable ties here and the smaller ones, and I've discovered that the larger ones are very, very loose. I think the reason is because they're not actually zip ties. I failed to spot their adjustable plant ties which you can move in and out. So these the large ones, they got next to no snap on them. The smaller ones, you can pull them up and they act pretty much like zip ties. They don't come undone unless you give them quite a good tug. So they're a better candidate for this. Either way, I have some corner pieces marked here, you know, across for drilling, and I shall use a small drill. I don't know, I guess in 2 or 3 mil to see what size that will go through. But let's just check it out. Perhaps a 1. Yeah, well, that's a 2.5 mil drill there. Let's try that. I'll just spot hole with a 2.5, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, we use the large ones. Yeah, they're quite clearly too small visually, unless we elongate them. Let's try that. That's a good idea. So that's just rocking the label left and right. Yeah, that's exactly what I want. So basically I've carved a notch there by rocking that. I'm going to push a cable tie through from the back, bring the top over. So it's like that. What background you need to see that clearly. going to come down like that, and then we're going to pull the top bit up. So what I'll do is I'm just going to drop a screwdriver in there, just to show what I mean. So this screwdriver will be the actual rope on the label, and then we pull the zip tie up tight on there, and it fits quite nicely to the back. Okay, and we're going to do the same with the second one. We'll feed it in through the back, bring the top over, so that's actually what I'm going to do, hanging it on the line, so it's not going to rock too easily that way, or it might do, but not so much. And then we're going to secure another one in the bottom here. So I'm going to use that same method. So I have a mark on there that's about 5mm in, I'm not too certain, right from the bottom there to my nail roughly. We're going to pop a little hole there, and we'll run a cable tie around the bottom in exactly the same way. So there's our spot hole. Rock it from side to side slightly, and then see if we can put the cable tie through. Yeah, that's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Exactly the same method. Pull it out from the back, yeah. That will work. That will work lovely. Let's see. Not quite sure whether that's visible or not, but that'll do the job exactly as planned. So there we are. There's the prototype done. I'll just bash out some more. And worst case, maybe a little dab of hot melt or different zip ties when they're available. We're not in this COVID issue. But dollar store adjustable plant ties and whatever these plant labels are will suffice for now. So here we are outside. We have all of these pieces made just with a cable tie around the base part there. Just here. And we're going to drop the overhead line down and use two cable ties, two zip ties around the cable in these holes. Okay, so now we're just going to get on with it. Is to add some line to the far end, so that as the antenna comes down it can be replaced by this going up, and then I can pull it back down again afterwards. Right, so the elements are on. I've just got to zip tie them or cable tie them along the length of the dipole now. Antenna is ready. It's time to ease it back up, and I'm going to do a little bit at each end, otherwise it puts a strain on the coax hanging down from the roof in the middle. So there we have it, a 40-20 fan dipole. Just got to go and check the SWR now. So remember, before we put the antenna up, we calculated and we added some extra wire because we knew it's going to be off frequency. What we're going to do now is measure the actual frequency it's on at the moment, and then do a calculation as to how much we should snip off either end, and that should be reasonably accurate. Okay, so let's check the SWR. Right, so first of all we're going to check that it's still resonant on 7 megs. Let's have a quick check here. So frequency 7, range say 5 megs, just and there she goes. Pretty good. Let's tune in a little bit, see if we can get exactly where that's resonant. That's pretty good. So let's see, what would that be? Up to about there, somewhere for the 2-to-1. 7.3, yeah, that's good. That's perfectly usable, because that's the area where I would be transmitting on SSB. So let's check 14 megs now. 14.2 is where I want it to be, and a range of let's say 5 megs again, just to see actually where it is. Quite a lot lower, and that's good because that means a higher wavelength, i.e. I can clip some of the ends off the cable. So we want it to be 14,150 to 14,350 for SSB use, and we need to see what the actual frequency of resonance is there, so that we can calculate how much we need to take off. I'm also interested in the 2-to-1 bandwidth here as well. So let's bring that across to roughly where I think it is. and reduce the range to 1 megahertz, so 500k either side. Okay, that's pretty good. That can tell us the 2 to 1 there as well, which we'll check in a minute. But first of all, let's get the resonance there. 13.63, so I'm a meg off. Yeah, let's just run that again. Yeah, pretty good. Now let's check the 2 to 1. It's going to be somewhere there. 2.1. Say 13.988. $13.337. So 13.988 minus 13.337, 660 hertz. So it's above half a meg bandwidth. So that's more than enough. So as long as we get the resonant point somewhere right on the cut, we'll be okay. So we need to do a little bit of simple math here to determine how much wire we cut off. Purposefully made the dipole longer than I needed it. We put it in the sky and it's resonant at 13.63 megahertz. We actually want it to be centered on 14.25 megahertz for the SSB part of 20 meters. So what we have to do is work out the wavelength of a quarter wave on both of those frequencies and deduct one from the other. So I made a slight mistake here. I need to put 14.250 in there. The reason I've done it this way around is because if mathematically you look at it, you're going to scratch these figures on pen and paper. Quarter wave of 13.63 is bigger than a quarter wave of 14.25. Okay, so we would use a calculator. I can't use a desktop calculator here and you see it, so I'm going to pull up a calculator within Windows. So if you don't see this scientific calculator with the EXP button here, you have to click up in this area and select scientific. This is on Windows 10. I presume it's the same throughout Windows. That's your standard calculator. We want scientific, so we have the exponential button. So to work out the wavelength of say 13.63, we would normally punch 3 EXP 8 on the calculator, which is 3 with 8 zeros behind it, divide it by the frequency, which is 13.63, EXP 6, because that's megahertz, has 6 zeros after it. That gives us a figure there of 22 meters, but remember that's a full wavelength. We want a quarter, so you could either divide by 4 or multiply by 0.25. I like divide by 4. So 5.502 is our answer. 5.502 metres. Now we're going to do the same thing for the 14.25 megs. So 3E8, which is speed of light, divided by 14.25. Let's clear that. Where's your clear button on here? Interested? Oh, there. Clear entry. Right, start that again. 3 exponential 8 divided by 14.25 exponential 6. It's quite clearly wrong. What have I done? Let's do that again. Scratch, scratch. 3E8 divided by 14.25 megahertz E6 equals 21 meters. There we go. Divide that by 4 to get the quarter wave. So our quarter wave is now 5.263. 5.263 meters. So we have to take one from the other to work out how many centimetres we're going to chop off. So 5 here, as we look at it, is 500. This is 26 centimetres. Okay, so on our calculator again, nice and simple one, 5.502 minus 5.263. 23.9 centimetres. So there's your answer. We will be chopping 24 centimetres off of each end or each leg of the dipole that's up there. So we've got to drop her down, chop the 24 centimetres off, put it back up and then measure it again, praying first. Bit of a quiz here. Can you tell which antenna analyzer I'm using? Good bit of free advertising for them. Anyway, the antenna's up. We've chopped 24 centimetres off of each leg and retested, and this is what we found. So for those astute amongst us, the one on the left is the 7 megahertz, and the one on the right is 14 megahertz. So looking at the 7 megahertz one on the left, you can see the curve come down, and where it crosses the 2 line on the SWR, that's my low figure. At the bottom there is the resonance, and then as it rises again and leaves towards the right direction, where it crosses the 2 again, is the high. So I measure this way because this is the area that it's going to work reasonably efficiently, and without the need of an antenna tuner. So measure the 2-to-1 bandwidth. We simply take the low figure away from the high figure, and it leaves us 0.430 megahertz. So that's the bandwidth at 2-to-1. Some people actually measure it at 1.5-to-1, but yeah, I think 2-to-1 is adequate. It depends how you're going to do it yourself in your situation, what you're going to reference to next time. I always reference the 2-to-1. So over on the right hand side, 14.208 megahertz is the resonance. You can see the low figure and the high figure, and the bandwidth is 657 kilohertz or 0.657 megahertz. So that's nice and wide. So you've only really got to get that cut quite close for it to fit inside that bandwidth. So there you are. I would say a successful couple of hours of work there, and I look forward to getting on the air and testing it.
So this video, if you like it, our video, comment down below or thumbs up.
Thanks for watching VA3SII. Bye.